On the 19th of January, TikTok is going to be banned in the United States unless its parent company can find an American buyer. And this is something that's going down very, very poorly with American TikTokers who seem to fail to understand the gravity of the situation, the magnitude of what is happening to them, and the intent behind the people doing this to them. Because social media obviously has addictive qualities, and this is something you can go and explore in your own time. There are various studies showing that it is a form of addiction. And let's be fair, if you use social media, you're probably aware that you get a kind of desire, you jones for a hit on the social media app, right? And so if you have an addictive property, an addictive substance, an addictive thing that you want all day, every day, it's probably best not controlled by a country and culture with whom you're in a kind of cultural Cold War. But there is definitely some war of position going on here. And I think that China is well aware of this and is deliberately using their social media apps against the minds and intellectual capabilities, cognitive capabilities of young people in the West. And so this is something that, frankly, the young people who are using TikTok, who frankly are obviously addicted to TikTok and are financially incentivized to use TikTok, need to be aware of. And all I think that really we can ask of them is, for the love of God, just use a Western social media app. That's literally all you need to do. It's not like our ones are any better. It's not like our ones aren't also going to rot your brain, but at least it won't be a foreign power that has evil designs on you rotting your brain. At least it will be people domestically rotting your brain not for someone else's advantage, right? So you may have seen videos like this going around where brain rotted Zoomer TikTokers who live in a very closed informational bubble sit there and try to make out like the American government are the bad guys in the TikTok ban. And it's like, no, the American government are the good guys in the TikTok ban. The American government are those people who are actually looking out for your best interests, whether you realize it or not. Because I realize that you are addicted to the infinite opium den of scrolling forever on your phone, but I'm going to show you why this is actually bad for you. And the way that we know it's bad for you is the people who own this app don't let their own people do it because they know it's bad too. But let's go through their arguments as to why America is actually the evil, the great Satan in the TikTok ban, and they're not actually just addicts.
Fascist countries ban apps. Fascist countries ban websites. Fascist countries ban apps and websites under the guise of threats to national security.
Okay, so America banning one app would make it fascist. What happens when you ban every app? Every single app? Google, YouTube, Facebook, Wikipedia, mostly, Reddit, Netflix, Zoom, Blogspot, Bing, Instagram, WhatsApp, Twitch. All of these are banned in China, the country that controls the app you're addicted to. All of these are banned. So is China like a super fascist country? And just to be clear, China is actually a fascist country, right? There is actually, the state is in direct command control of the economy. And literally, it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. Like if you cross the state in some way, you will just disappear. This is something that just keeps happening, where very prominent Chinese billionaires, well, they just vanish. And you think that any other dissidents don't just vanish? Like, it goes the whole way. The state is a command economy that the state has just complete executive control over, because of course China has been a one-party dictatorship since Mao Zedong won the Chinese Civil War, and will continue to be a one-party dictatorship in which Xi Jinping has been centralizing more and more power to himself, so that he has got complete personal control of the entire country. So sitting there pontificating, well, states that ban apps are fascist. Okay, well, how about this? It makes sense for the United States, which is not a fascist country by any metric, to actually prevent fascist manipulation of its own citizens for their own good, because it turns out they're actually young and stupid and don't know anything about the real world. How about that? let's continue. Again, with 15 seconds in, and already she has made the perfect case for the banning of TikTok to make sure that fascist Chinese governments can't manipulate her soft mind.
When every other country knows it's about suppressing the free speech of its citizens.
It's not about suppressing free speech, though. Like, you literally have the First Amendment, something that people in fascist China don't have, something people in the country who's manipulating you don't have. Right? You can use any app. Right? The US government is not editorializing what you were allowed to say on the internet. And God willing, we'll end up with something like that in Britain one day. Right? You can say what you want on any app that you want. It's just the Chinese Communist Party run app in the fascist Chinese state is not allowed to manipulate what you're allowed to see, because that's what this all boils down to. Because algorithmic manipulation is a really pressing modern issue that you are a victim of. You are a victim of this kind of constant dopamine hit addiction, and they know it, and they've been using it against you.
If the government believes that a single app could, quote from the hearing on the 10th, skew the perspective of American citizens to be anti-American, maybe the real problem is that American citizens are already in such a state of political unrest and unhappiness that our government is scared a single foreign influence could tip the scale.
She doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything about the active measures that the Soviets took against the West for decades during the Cold War. Right? She doesn't know anything about communist subversion. She doesn't even question, why am I even considering being anti-American? Why is my perspective pro-Chinese Communist Party and anti-United States? She's an American. How is it you can possibly be considering a situation where you might validly be turned against your own country for the benefit of a foreign power? That's how deep the brain rot has gone in this woman and millions of other young people who use TikTok, right? This is mental. You are already, because you're an addict of this site, you have decided, and because you don't know anything about China and the Chinese Communist Party, and the fact that it's morphed into a fascist state over time, because of course communism is an impossible state to arrive at, that you are now going, right, okay, well, maybe the country in which I actually have free speech, in which I actually have legal protections, in which I actually have constitutional rights, maybe that country is the problem. It's like, well, why do you say that? Well, decades of communist subversion of the American left has actually left America and a lot of American young people not very happy in America. It's like, well, maybe that's something to do with the communist subversion. And you're like, no, I like the communist subversion. I'm addicted to it. And I want the Chinese Communist Party to be able to continue to mess with my mind via the app I am addicted to. And I'm going to blame the American government and call it fascist, ridiculously, when they try to stop the communists from messing with my soft head. Like, that's your perspective is so totally backwards about what is actually good and what is actually good for you, what is actually good for the people of your country. And you literally, just to me, you sound like an addict. And I've had to deal with addicts in my own family. They make up all kinds of stupid rationalizations as to why they should keep using the drug. And the irony is, it's not like there aren't Western apps that are just as harmful in this way, the infinite opium down on our own apps. But why are you addicted to the foreign app? Why does it have to be the foreign app? And this, again, I just want to be super clear about this. China is well aware that this is doing damage to your brain. They know that this affects your ability to think for long periods of time. It affects your ability to focus on things that are not the app itself, which is why they don't let their children use the app like you do. Right? This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing to see, because they've actually got like a separate version of TikTok just because they know that this is dangerous, right? They've got an app called Douyin, which is exactly the same as TikTok, except users under 14 are required to put it in a healthy moderation teenage mode, right? So young impressionable users are limited to 40 minutes a day between daylight hours to ensure they get adequate sleep. Endless zombie-like scrolling is interrupted by mandatory 5-second delays. they're also shown specifically selected inspiring content, right? The algorithm is vastly different, promoting science, educational, and historical content in China while making our citizens watch stupid dance videos with the main goal of making us imbeciles, says an Air Force officer, chief software officer. It's like, right. So does that guy care about the quality and content that American citizens get to watch? Does he care about the condition of the minds of the American youth? I mean, this girl seems like, what, she's 20, 21, 22? She's very young, right? She's obviously been using these apps since she was a teenager as well. And I think that if I'm going to say, right, does the chief software officer of the Air Force care about the American youth? Or does Xi Jinping and his fascist Chinese Communist Party care about the American youth? Well, I'd say, what is it they do, right? One of them is like, okay, I actually don't think that we should have infinite opium pumped into the minds of teenagers because I think it actually might be bad for their brains. And the Chinese Communist Party say, yes, that's correct. Our teenagers will be prevented from having this. Our young people will be protected from the infinite opium den, but yours won't. Yours will be given free access to it until your government intervenes. And this addict is just like, well, isn't that fascism? It's like, no, you are literally the foot soldier of the fascist party of China that is trying to subvert you and destroy your cognitive abilities. They know what they're doing. And frankly, this is one of those few things, this is one of those few times that in the United States, a bipartisan agreement has been reached on TikTok. And they're both sides who are normally hammer and tongs at war going, yeah, okay, actually, I think we may have a duty of care in this respect to actually look after our young people because clearly they're not bright enough to look after themselves.